Episode 5. The Goblin Raid That Tasted Delicious. It was still deep winter, and Heinrick's tavern was the warmest refuge in the valley. Snow piled high against the shutters, icicles hung in the eaves, and the fire roared as villagers crowded inside for stews, teas, and pies that could melt the frost right out of their bones. But trouble brewed beyond the cozy firelight. A goblin raiding party had been plaguing the village for weeks, snatching livestock, stealing tools, and terrifying children with their off-key war songs. So, when 6 goblins burst through the tavern doors one freezing evening, banging rusty swords on their shields, the patrons shrieked and scattered under the tables. "Hands up, humans!" snarled the leader, a goblin with one ear and an eye patch. "We take gold. We take ale. We take— Ooh, is that stew?" Heinrick froze, ladle in hand. He was no warrior. His magic was unreliable at best, catastrophic at worst. Kutath reached for his axe, but Heinrick raised a hand. "Let me try," he whispered. The goblins advanced, snarling. Heinrick flipped open his spellbook, muttered an incantation, and poof! A dazzling illusion filled the tavern of giant potatoes. But these weren't normal potatoes. They had dozens of twitching eyes and sharp fangs sprouting from their sides. The monstrous spuds rolled menacingly towards the goblins, growling like wolves. Unfortunately, as usual, the illusion went wrong, because instead of attacking the goblins, the potato horrors turned and chased Heinrick around the tavern, snapping their ruddy jaws. He yelped and scrambled over tables while goblins fell to the floor, howling with laughter. "Worst wizard ever!" the one-eyed goblin cackled, holding his stomach. Cornered by his own spell, Heinrick did the only thing he could. He tossed a fistful of secret curry powder into the air. A shimmering cloud of golden spice rained down, settling on the goblin's stew pot, which simmered unattended on the hearth. The scent was irresistible. The goblins froze, noses twitching. One by one they dropped their weapons, drooled, and shuffled to the pot. The leader took a tentative sip, then squealed with delight. "Sweet moon's toenails! That's the best thing I've ever tasted!" Soon, all 6 goblins were slurping happily, smacking their lips and begging for more. Instead of raiding, they started trading. A dented helmet for another bowl, a sack of stolen apples for dessert, even a rusty dagger in exchange for extra bread. By the end of the night, the goblin raiding party was too stuffed to fight. They waddled out of the tavern, singing, off-key of course, promising to raid no more, so long as Heinrick kept him fed once a week. The villagers declared Heinrick a hero. Kutath thumped him on the back so hard he nearly fell into the stew. "Magic bad," Kutath said proudly. "Curry better." And once again, Heinrick realized that though he might never cast spells like other wizards, he wielded a different kind of magic, the kind that turned enemies into dinner guests. But that wasn't quite the end of the night. Hours later, when the tavern had quieted, the sound of goblin voices rose outside. The raiding party had gathered in the snowdrifts, swaying on their feet and belting out what they thought were winter carols. "Jingle skulls, steal a goat today. Oh, what fun it is to raid with a sack of loot, hooray! Hey!" Their tuneless racket echoed across the village, rattling shutters and sending dogs howling. The patrons groaned, pulling blankets over their heads. Heinrick peeked out of the window, face in his palm. Kutath, however, beamed. "Best carols ever," he said proudly, before joining in at full volume. The villagers were kept awake all night by the world's first, and hopefully last, Goblin Carol Choir.